Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Matt, and this is Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit, your beacon of freedom and the American way of life. Tune in every Mondays for a new episode as we dive into the world of liberty and what makes our country great. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Matt and Eric here with Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit, your home for everything free in a world of absolute craziness and debauchery and downright evil. I mean, as we see, here recently, there's been a lot of terrible things happening in our world. And today's show, we hope everyone finds us well and happy and healthy and loving their families and having a good day here today. And what we'd like to talk about in today's show is we want to dive into what happened to Charlie Kirk and some of the ripple effects that it's had. And, without the danger, let's just say, of the risk of me diving into sensationalism or trying to, garner attention over something tragic that happened. That's something we're never really going to do on the show. Matt, I always notice, like, if something happens, some event, we always try to kind of sit back and let things marinate for a while and really see what people are saying and really garner a solid opinion of the facts at hand before we go diving into a subject like this.
No, you have to. We are not a breaking news segment.
Right.
If that's what you guys are looking for, there are tons of those creators out there, many of which are in the 2A world that cover news.
Right.
That ain't us. We like to, like you said, marinate, let all the facts come out, and then you can then create an opinion. You can't have an opinion if you don't know all the facts.
The last thing that you want to do is be a vampire of somebody's joy or a vampire of the world's terror. And, and look, I know we all have to get news. I get that. But I've never really been big on news, the idea of news, because news is new. That's why they call it news. So, from my perspective, I don't like watching the news. I don't like knowing all the crazy things that are going on in the world at any one given time. Sometimes in the world, things happen that are so important and historic or terrible or tragic that one cannot help but know because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Charlie Kirk. I remember the day that I found out about the shooting, I was taken aback. We'll get into it a little more, of course. But I was very taken aback when I found out. I was surprised. I knew who Charlie Kirk was at a bird's eye level. I knew about Turning Point USA. I knew about some of the stuff that they've done. I knew he was going around to the campuses and talking to people and trying to have a good, honest dialogue and doing it quite well, I might say. So my initial reaction was, sadness. I thought, well, damn, what did that poor guy do to deserve that? He's just, going around, respecting people's opinions and listening to people. Now, of course, many times proving them wrong, which, nobody likes to be proven wrong. And let's face it, there are people on certain political persuasions that their opinions are relatively easily disproven. And some people don't like the idea of their reality as they see it being challenged and or disproven in such a concrete and easy way. That is not very hard to disprove some of the talking points that the left puts out there. Let's just be honest, because a lot of their opinions are really just based on rhetoric and lies and propaganda, and they rely heavily on indoctrination. Their talking points rely heavily on their base being uneducated or perhaps being indoctrinated. Indoctrination is just a type of education that is what they want you to believe and maybe not the fact. When you indoctrinate somebody, you say, well, don't think about that. It's like saying, this orange is not the color orange. It's blue. Like George Orwell.
Right.
Well, no, it's orange. Wham! It's blue. And no matter what, as the state tells you it's blue, it's blue. And that's going to be your definition of blue is going to be what they tell you it is. And I think that there are a political faction within our country who are hardcore about the party, and whatever the party says or whatever they dictate or whatever their opinions line up with, they share that opinion, whether they personally want to believe it or not.
Well, a good example of that is Antifa. They say it stands for anti-fascist. when in fact all of their behavior and actions are in fact fascist. So it's like they're trying to pull the Uno reverse in an attempt to make you think that that's not what it is. But anybody that's seen that experience, they're like, that's fascist.
It's crazy because projection is the ultimate tool that many of these types of political movements use. They are always going to try to place the blame on the other party for what they are actually engaging in. It's projection. It's a classic communist, Marxist type tactic that it's right out of the Communist Manifesto. I mean, if you read the way that their disinformation campaigns are meant to be ran, they totally love to project. And
I believe
that's the ultimate projection. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at MyPatriot Supply here today. September is National Preparedness Month. So it's the perfect time to ask yourself some questions like, how much food do you have on hand for emergencies? How would you get clean water if the tap went dry tomorrow? What would you do if a storm knocked out the power for a week? If you're anything like me, there's some room for improvement on this stuff. Luckily, our friends at MyPatriot Supply are making disaster preparedness easier and more affordable than ever by giving you over $1,500 worth of emergency food and preparedness gear for free. They just launched their Preparedness Month Mega Kit, and it includes a full year of emergency food, a water filtration system that can purify almost any water source, and a solar backup generator, plus a lot more. And here's the best part. If you go to mypatriotsupply.com/LLP, you can get 90 preparedness essentials totaling over $1,500 absolutely free. Head to mypatriotsupply.com/LLP for full details. That's mypatriotsupply.com/LLP. That's Lima Papa for more information. Big thanks to MyPatriot Supply. They've been a long-term supporter of the channel here and of Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit. This podcast has been a labor of love from Matt and I, and we appreciate it when our corporate sponsors throw a few war bucks in our direction to help keep the lights on.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you guys very much, and I hope you guys get yourself some emergency food if that's something you need. Yeah, check out MPS. They're great people.
Go check out that deal, guys.
And a great base company, by the way. They are very well aligned in our values.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that as well.
So. But guys, go check that out. I think it's good till the 30th of this month.
Right.
A huge savings.
Absolutely. So back to Charlie Kirk. I mean, I remember when I found out, again, like I said, I was very upset and very taken aback, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then, of course, as many things, when a tragedy occurs, of course, the rumor mill starts to come around, and everybody starts to talk about, who was the shooter? Was it a professional hitman? Was it this? Was it that? And everyone's going to have their theories and everything like that. And of course, as you know, in the time following the shooting, they arrested this older guy or detained this older guy thinking that he was the shooter, but it turns out he was just a decoy to try and help the real shooter get away. That ends up being pretty much, I think, what they've determined at this point. This guy sympathized with the shooter immediately and decided to try to help him get away. And from what I can tell, I don't think this old man knew the shooter at all. He just was a crazy leftist who saw an opportunity to, obstruct justice, I guess.
Yeah, well, there was a few of them. There was also the other guy with the beard that, had some weird story about, he was trying to distract any type of additional shots or anything. I'm like, whatever. It's a weird, it's very strange. There is a lot of food there for a conspiracy theorist to munch on. I'll tell you that. There is not, it isn't a very cut and dry thing. It's a lot of little tiny things there. And again, I look at it as very cut and dry. But I can see how a conspiracy theorist or a group of people could look at that and try to piece something together.
Oh yeah. And believe me, there's been multiple theories inbound about all of this stuff. And the last thing I would ever want to do in this podcast is disparage the memory of Charlie. I did not know Charlie Kirk very well. I know a lot of people in the conservative community knew him well, met him, worked with him, maybe professionally worked with him in terms of, actually doing stuff with him and collabs and things, or at least have gone to some of his, talks that he does at the
Mhm.
campuses and stuff. So he was a very loved and respected person in the conservative community, and very hated in other communities. And the problem is, yeah, you're going to make enemies doing that sort of stuff. And there was of course, a huge outpour of support for Charlie. And I did not know him very well, but I quickly began to, and I believe my view lines up pretty well with a lot of other people in America. Okay. Someone who maybe at a bird's eye level was familiar with Charlie Kirk and his work, but had not really looked into it super heavy. He was really trying to appeal more to the younger crowd,
Mhm.
appealing more to the college audiences. And, I knew what he was doing, but I didn't follow it much, because I guess I just figured, well, he's really talking to the young kids. In my mind, I thought, okay, Charlie Kirk is the guy who goes around to the colleges and gets the young people to think differently. Like maybe you can change your mind about something you have a really strong opinion on if Charlie just break down the facts for you. Now,
Mhm.
yeah, of course, we love watching all the meltdowns of people who get really upset talking to Charlie. But when you get upset, when you have that response, something worked, something clicked. They may not want to admit that, oh, wow, maybe my thinking was wrong on this. Maybe my facts were wrong on this particular situation. But you can tell that there's some gears turning. And I guarantee a lot of those people went on to probably change their minds. And when you have somebody, a figure like Charlie, who is so effective at getting the youth to see the truth for what it is and to really engage in the facts and get rid of all the rhetoric and the bullcrap, governments, they fear that kind of stuff. Movements fear that kind of stuff. When you're talking a group of people who rely on misinformation and lies and indoctrination, and they rely on controlling information, controlling the flow of the media, and controlling the flow of information on social media, and controlling what pundits go out and say in public. Okay, someone's going to go and give a presentation at a college campus. Oh, well, we have to make sure that person's a leftist so that our ideology. So, of course, you see all these leftists get paid tons of money to go to these colleges and give. I mean, what Barack Obama gets, oh my gosh, what, like a $650,000 speaking fee just to show up at a school and give some thoughts?
Yep.
Now, that might be a bad example because he's a former president, but there are situations where leftist pundits who are, let's just say, similarly as famous as Charlie, of course, they're going to get paid a lot of money to go to these places and really do what's essentially damage control.
Yeah.
To try to undo what people like Charlie do on these campuses.
And the difference is Charlie does it for free. He'll sit down in the courtyard of a public campus because it's not private property at that point, which is and another person that did that was Crowder. So
Crowder was good.
Now
good with
I will
that.
say the major difference. Crowder was very good, and I don't know if he still does it. I know he was really big on it before the Change My Mind series. He was a lot less tactful. So Charlie had a way of doing it and not coming off so smug. He would actually try to educate you if you wanted to have a conversation. And that's really what got me turned on to the whole, watching that whole series and his podcast and his content, was that he was very respectful. I would be at the shop working and we would just have it on and listening and watching while we work, because it's very monotonous work, producing garments. So we just have it running in the background. And the first thing that everybody at the shop noticed, including myself, was that he was very respectful about how he conducted himself. He never tried to shut you down in a negative manner. He would always be very polite. And that quite honestly, is probably what angered a lot of people, because he wasn't reciprocating that level of anger back towards them. They would be very upset at what his stance was, and he would just talk to you like a normal human being, like you should, and not let emotions get involved.
Nothing makes a leftist more angry than when they try to draw you into some emotional, unhinged argument, and you do not allow them to have that power over you.
Yep.
If you keep your cool, you're calm, you're collected, you smile, you go, well, I don't agree with that, but hey, here's what I think. Well, no one cares what you think.
Yeah.
So see, really, the truth is they don't give a rat's ass what you have to say. They don't want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. They're right in their mind, and nothing's going to change their mind. And they have and if anything, they hate you even more because your opinion is right. They know So, and what's so jacked up about it is some of them, they know the truth. Like they're not, I don't think a lot of them are ignorant. I think that they're just emboldened. I think that they're so, I don't know, they've drank the Kool-Aid so much with their political views that they simply don't care that they're wrong. They know they're wrong and they don't care. Now, there's going to be some out there that, yeah, they've drank the Kool-Aid at such a level that they really do believe what they're saying is correct. But I think the rank and file ones, the ones that are, let's just say, the ones that are attached to some of these PACs, some of these are getting PAC money and they're getting political contributions. They're getting slush money from various political association that they have, whatever. They're well connected. They're actually connected to the party. They're getting talking points from the party. They're getting bullet points from the party. They get marching orders from the party. Essentially, they're foot soldiers of the party directly, and they receive funds. These are the kind of people that they don't work. They don't have regular jobs. They're being supported, essentially. Yeah, of course, they pay their mortgage or their rent. They pay their bills. They have requirements of life, just like any of us would, but they're basically being supported by this, dark overseer that basically makes it their full-time job to just be a thorn in the side. So those rank and file leftists, they know it's wrong. They know it's wrong. They just don't care because I'm getting $150,000 a year slush money.
Yep.
I'm going to go to every rally. I'm going to, go online because all they have to do all day is go online and argue with people and post, a bunch of crap on social media. And of course, these PACs go in and probably buy them followers on social media. So they have oh man, like so-and-so's a leftist pundit. He's got this huge following. Right. And you notice how easy those guys get ratioed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You look at a leftist influencer on X and those suckers get ratioed all the time because the people that know, they come in, they go, you're full of crap and here's why. And then you start seeing community notes show up and they're just consistently wrong and they don't care that they're wrong, but they're being paid to be wrong. They know they're wrong. They don't care. So I think there's a lot of people like that. They're receiving money from the Democrats. They're receiving money from those dark slush operations, George Soros or whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be Bloomberg. Who knows? It's some leftist billionaire who's paying these people to do all this stuff. Without the danger of sounding like some sort of, theorist or whatever. I hate to use the word conspiracy theorist because the thing is what happens is people wind up being proven right a lot. And part of the issue becomes that this term has become such a negative term that it makes people afraid to speculate. So without saying, all right, some conspiracy theory or whatever, let's just say speculation. There is some speculation among certain circles that possibly this situation with poor Charlie is a result of some shenanigans with some dark slush money somewhere, that maybe someone was being paid off to do this, or maybe they were working under these people somehow or whatever. I mean, there's talk of Tim Walz. Okay, have you heard, the guy that ran for president?
Vice president.
Right? Vice president, yep. VP. He was, Kamala's VP.
Yep.
And there was talk of Tim Walz, really calling people to violence and calling people to act and stuff like this. And there's some talk, and maybe people can correct me if I'm wrong, but unless I'm reading into it wrong, that the shooter wound up being somehow connected to Tim Walz somewhere, either through association or maybe it was his father. There was some connection somewhere that I think they found in some of his social media posts that
it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he
was a leftist,
and he had a transgendered boyfriend.
They called him a roommate.
Yeah. See, that's so weird, right? Like if I would like to introduce my roommate and my wife. Like, no, she is my wife. She is not my roommate. This is my.
I think it's strange that they're saying roommate.
Yeah, that's
I think they're
so
trying
wild.
To be politically
man.
correct. I don't think the person was a roommate.
That was their significant other at the time. It's like
I don't believe for one second that it's a roommate.
Yeah, I mean. It is. I saw that and I heard it and I was like, that's so weird. Why don't they just say boyfriend or girlfriend versus roommate and girlfriend?
The possibility, Matt, could be that maybe it is just a roommate. I mean, I think that our scrutiny of this comes from the fact that we've been lied to for so freaking long by the media, and we've been lied to for so long, even by our own government, that I wonder if there's some essential wound licking that is purposely being done so that people don't lash out against, I don't know, the transgender community or they're
No,
so
dude.
worried about the downhill effects of certain things happening. It's almost like they'll self-soothe, or they'll try to divert people's attention away from certain facts about the issues at hand so that they don't get more angry.
I think it's the opposite. I think everybody's had enough. I think there's so much fatigue that everybody
No one
doesn't,
cares.
like, nobody cares, man. As a matter of fact, they're actually more quick to point out anything now. And this is my personal experience. They're more quick to point out anything than before. Now you're just like, wow, okay, that nobody would have said anything, 6 months ago.
That's very true.
And now they're like, it's like that meme where the guy's snapping and pointing. He's like, hey,
Matt, the gloves are off.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, what this situation, I feel very bad for obviously for Charlie and for his family and all of this. It just sucks. I mean, it happened right in front of his wife and kids.
Yeah, that's
terrible,
man.
How
that's
terrible.
Rough.
And whatever punishment that they come up with for this guy. And it seems to be that the prevailing opinion is that, I mean, they're like 99.999% sure he's the guy that did it. They found social media stuff. They found some text threads between him and his roommate where he admitted.
They read the entire text thread. I was watching.
Right.
It was the actual court
transcript.
Yeah, and they were reading it like back and forth, like this person. I was like, dang. This
you pretty much admitted to it right there.
He's like, oh, I dropped the gun. And I have to go back and get it.
They found the gun that you mentioned in the text,
Yeah.
right? You mentioned it. What I think he had said, like, I got to go get my grandpa's rifle, like his little Mauser, whatever it was. Which I'm sure, I don't know if the grandpa's still alive or not, but I would imagine he's probably going to be in some trouble.
Yep.
They're probably going to come after him and be like, hey, how did your grandson get a hold of your freaking hunting rifle? I mean, okay, so all of those issues withstanding, they pretty much know that he's the guy. He's more or less admitted he turned himself in, and I think he wound up telling his dad, and his dad convinced him to turn himself in. And his dad's a police officer, right? And or some sheriff's deputy.
And his dad seems like a pretty honorable dude, man.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Like, to want to raise your kid to be normal, and like it looked like, from what I could tell, and again, I'm not trying to show freaking sympathy for the shooter, y'all. Please do not take it that way. He's a scumbag, and he deserves to be treated like a scumbag. I'm talking about the dad here, y'all, okay? No dad wants to see their kid go down a path of darkness like that. And it looked like, from the outside looking in, I don't know these people. I haven't exactly done a lot of studying on the subject of these people, but from just a bird's eye glance, it would seem that he was raised in a somewhat normal, conservative type of environment, but somehow became sort of tarnished along the way somewhere by outside forces. And again, that is what this all comes back to full circle, is the kind of things that produce these sort of people is the leftist movement. And they're trying to pin this guy as, oh, he was a conservative MAGA type. Of course, the media is lying about it, trying to say he was because
that whole projection thing, right?
Because his parents were a little bit more conservative. That, oh, well, he grew up in a conservative family, so he's a conservative. No. He had many leftist leaning type of ideas, and he was definitely not on Team Trump at all.
So it's very interesting because I know a lot of families, and I don't know why that happens. I don't know if it's because the children have a natural inkling to be the opposite of their parents. Like, they don't want to be like their parents. But I know a lot of families where the mother and father are Republicans or conservatives, I should say, and the kids are not. And I wonder, I'm like, well, why does that happen? And I just really, really believe it's because, a child has a natural affinity to not want to be like their parents when they're younger. Like, and this goes like, if you have kids and you're watching, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. If you tell them, hey, when you learn to walk, start with your left leg, which leg are they going to start with? Their right. If you say, hey, do it this way, they're going to do it the other way because they want to show that it can be done the way that you tell them not to do it. And now when I look at these families and I meet their children, they're, I wouldn't say they're full blown left, but they definitely lean more left, and they're a little bit more liberal, I should say. Maybe not left. They're a little bit more liberal than their parents because maybe they don't want to be like their parents. And that's what maybe that's what happened.
Yeah.
But I do see that quite a bit.
I think you're right. I think that a lot of kids tend to rebel against their parents and rebel against what their parents want them to do, for instance, your granddad was a cop, your dad was a cop. Your dad convinces you to try to be a cop. That's the family business. That's what we've always done. We've always been cops. We're good at it, blah, blah, blah. It's in your blood. They try to convince you. Well, I don't want to be a cop. I want to be a criminal. Or maybe that's a bad look. But hey, I don't want to be a cop. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a whatever. I want to be an engineer.
I want to be a dancer,
no, you don't
Dad.
Want to be an engineer.
I want to go to dance school.
You don't want to be an engineer, blah, blah, blah. And so sometimes parents will try to hold a kid down in their aspirations with the worry that they're going to fail, but not give them the chance to even fail. But if you don't give them a chance to fail, you never give them a chance to succeed. How are they going to know if they would have been an engineer or an astronaut or whatever, a race car driver or pro musician or whatever it was they want to do? If you don't give them a chance to fail, it doesn't take long to try and fail. Right?
Easier to fail than to succeed.
It's way easier to fail than it is to succeed. So if a kid wants to be a tattoo artist for a living, by God, buy him an apprenticeship and let him tattoo for a little while. He's going to find out quick if it's for him or not, right? Like, let them make that mistake because that's part of growing. As part of a young man's development is to go, wow, I tried doing this for a while and I hated it and I thought I was going to love it. And that shows how little I really know. So I do sympathize a bit with the parents because I don't think there's some parent out there that thinks, oh my God, I can't wait for my young child to be a school shooter one day. No, no one wants that. I don't care if someone is an extreme leftist. Now, I don't know. The way some of these people reacted to Charlie Kirk's death, it would seem that like they're raising their kids to act that way. They were completely in joy and celebrating over this poor guy. And I think that really was a wake-up call for a lot of people. When they saw the way the left was acting completely vile in every way about it, celebrating his death, making fun of him, making mean memes.
It was atrocious, dude.
Sickening.
Oh my God, dude. Like I saw some of the stuff and I was like, there's no way that is real. Because the lack of empathy that you have to do that is insane. And the fact that it came from like, it wasn't like kids. If it was like little kids, I would understand because they lack the frontal cortex to be able to understand what the difference is between right and wrong. But these are college kids. And when I say college, like 21, 22, I mean,
they ought to know by then.
Like, the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. You have common sense.
That berating the poor guy is not right.
And saying like, oh, he got what he deserved. Like that's you don't even say that about people that were like murdered for robbing somebody. You don't say that. But you would say that about a guy that just went on campus and was educating other young Americans. And often non-Americans.
Right. And educating them in a way that you just happen to greatly disagree with. I mean, what this is, these types of things, Matt, when a movement is in its death throes, this is how people act. So, in my opinion, there's one of two ways that this could really go, I think, socially for us as a country moving forward. Either we have gotten the giant wake-up call and the slap in the face. I mean, you notice that here recently, Charlie Kirk, they did a rally for him and it was sold out. It was packed full of people. Churches are full. People are going to church. That's a big thing that not enough people are talking about, Excuse me. Charlie was a very much, very Christian guy. And a lot of people have started to think, man, this guy gave his life for what he believed in, and he knew the risk and he knew the danger and he did it anyway, and he loved God. And it makes a man self-reflect and go like, man, I need to go to church. Like, maybe we need to take the family to church. Like, it's made people want to be better Christians. And you notice the churches have been fuller. These rallies are getting sold out. People are turning back to God, turning back to religion. Now, no matter what anybody thinks about that, whether it's good or bad, that's up to everyone to decide. I mean, I know there's some of the people watching my channel, maybe they're not religious. That's okay. Or maybe you support a different religion. That's all right. But for the purposes of, let's just say, what I'm about to break down in terms of the way this could go in either direction, anytime you see a tragedy bring people together religiously, from a standpoint of society, and that politically and religiously they intertwine and strengthen, and when you look at historically the way that these leftist type of situations tend to go when they start to get violent, that can mean one of two things, right? It can mean that either the left is getting bold and they're going to step up the violence and try to assert some sort of dominance over the entire political spectrum, or for lack of better words, some sort of color revolution, right? That's either that happens, or it's a sign that these movements are in their death throes. And I think that's more correct. I think the left realizes they've lost the war on ideas. They went too far, too quick, right? They went way too far down the crazy rabbit hole of this transgender stuff and sexuality and racial relations and political violence and all these calls to action. And then they played their hand too hard, too quick, and within too small of amount of time. They tried to enact too much change too quickly, and I think they know it. And even some of the rank and file Democrats have been kind of like, all right, some of the older ones are like, all right, like, we see what y'all are doing, but maybe it wasn't quite in their plans to be driving that fast past the speed limit. These newer breed of Democrats like Ilhan Omar and AOC and, the squad, right? These younger Democrats, these politicians, they have a much more radical approach to leftism than some of their older counterparts. And as these these older leftists begin to leave office or pass away or whatever the case may be, they're going to be replaced with more people like her. So either the movement is going to get more traction and get more crazier and get more deadly as more people like AOC and Ilhan Omar get in office under Democrat leader and become part of Democrat leadership, and therefore the arbiters of policy and slush money and no telling what else they do to try to move the needle. Or two, they know that the movement is in its death throes, and what you're going to see is maybe more younger candidates who maybe they were becoming, they were thinking running for Democrat for office. Either they're going to run as a Democrat and have more libertarian, middle of the road policies as a Democrat, or they're just going to run as a Republican. And the Republicans will become the new party of normal people. Like, how the libertarians always kind of tout themselves as being just more normal.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there are some kind of extreme libertarians too that have some kind of crazy extreme ideas that maybe some of us may not always agree with. So just like the left has this series of people who are crazy in their views, so do the libertarians, and the Republicans have maybe some people from each pool. I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the Republican Party become more of a uniparty that tries to kind of get down with the fringe outer levels of all the different views that maybe they previously disagreed with. That's why you're seeing some Republicans support gun control, because traditionally they might not have ever done it. So you do see some Republican support for gun control. You see even our own illustrious Republican president called for certain things like, bump stock ban or things like that, whatever. So we're not immune from things happening to us that we don't agree with just because a Republican is in office. So that's where I see it going. I think that extreme leftism, extreme far left ideology, for better lack of term, let's just say the Democrat Party. I think the Democrat Party knows their days are numbered, that they're in their death throes. I don't think they're ever going to go away, but I think their membership is going to scatter and fall in with Republicans and maybe libertarians, and or they'll just run as independents. I mean, look what RFK did. He tried to run as independent. Of course, he wasn't successful in that. But we knew fiscally and just let's say morally, he was really closer to being a Democrat than a Republican. But now we have a Republican administration, and look, they brought him in.
Yeah.
So,
well, as an independent, you have the ability to be more of a chameleon. You can, change your opinion, and no one's going to blame you because you're an independent. You didn't choose sides. You're like,
but it's hard to get elected as an independent.
It's hard to get into an elected position, but it's very easy to blend in to an environment. Mm-hmm. So once you're in, now it's almost like an unfair advantage because you can kind of sway back and forth. No one's really holding you accountable.
Well, look at Massey. Everybody brought Massey in, and there's a lot of Democrats hate Massey, and there's a lot of Republicans that hate Massey. Even our own president is not a big fan of Thomas Massey. And, Massey's like that. Like, yes, he's a Republican, but he's a rhino.
But he's a physical conservative.
He's a fiscal conservative.
If you had to put a label on, because I know he considers himself more of a libertarian.
Yes.
But for the sake of being in office, he has to choose one, right? Because he didn't run as a libertarian.
Right.
So
I think that Massey is at some times a fiscal Republican, but I would say he's a fiscal constitutionalist.
This is a better
and he is a moral and societal libertarian.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
And I think that he is a conservative only in the standpoint that he wants to conserve what our founding fathers built, not.
Well, that's what it is, though. Right. Like you're
to conserve ultimately where we came from.
Yeah, like you're conserving and upholding the Constitution of the United States of America. Correct. That's what the term is. Now, I just wanted to say about Charlie Kirk.
Sure.
He was the type of man. You have to be a certain type of man that both sides give you the utmost respect. So when he was assassinated, when he was murdered, usually he's a conservative, like he's definitely not a liberal. If you watched any of his content, he's probably one of the few, if not the only person that garnered respect from both sides. And that I noticed this when my brother messaged me, and he was like, "Man, who is this Charlie Kirk guy?" I was like, and for all intents and purposes, my brother is a left-leaning guy. Like that's what it is what it is. Sorry, dude. And he messages me, and I'm like, "Oh man, Charlie Kirk is, he's a highly educated, self-taught guy that goes around to, college campuses, and he educates college students, and he does it in a respectful manner. He doesn't shut them down. He allows them to finish his sentences, and finish their point, and then he responds, very poignantly and politely." And that's why both sides liked him. And then he sent back, he was like, "That's what I'm seeing. And that's the only reason I heard of him, because, he obviously, his algorithm pushes a lot of, left-leaning news. And what he was telling me is that they all were like, very sad, and like they all had a lot of respect for him on that side. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." That's what I would imagine.
I mean, it's good to see when there's still some, humanity.
Yeah.
Like I know that Jimmy Kimmel, everyone, I know we had mentioned that we were going to probably briefly talk about Jimmy Kimmel. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this guy, but he gave some pretty derogatory, nasty comments. All right.
Yeah.
And ABC pulled him from the air. Like they pulled his show. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the rigmarole of why the show was pulled, because they were saying that, like the numbers are way down. They were losing a bunch of money anyway. And that was just sort of the catalyst. Point doesn't really matter what he said overall. I guess what really matters is that society will always self-regulate. And, you look at Candace Owens got fired for her views. You look at all the conservatives who got censored and fired and shamed for their views. In some cases, deplatformed completely.
Yeah.
And the left celebrated that these people lost their voice, lost their community, lost their platform. The left can only win in the war of ideas if you are simply removed from the stage. And that is the scary part about censorship. And, here we are when we see a leftist who gets fired, not only because, their views are why they got
from
fired.
a private company, mind
Right.
you.
A private company can fire someone if they want to.
That's their
You're
decision.
an employee, and if you say something they don't like, they can fire you.
That's right.
Okay. So I think it's funny when something like that happens to them, they want to scream, "Oh, it's censorship." But see, when dozens of conservative voices get deplatformed and demonetized and thrown against the wall, all of a sudden that's okay because it's people we disagree with. So it does show the clear hypocrisy of the left. And like, if it's one thing you can consistently expect from them, is that they will always be hypocrites. They will always deal in they will be knee deep in the hypocrisy, no matter what. And it's just important to mention that.
I mean, bro, how many times did Crowder get like deplatformed? Man, I stopped counting. Like, it's just crazy, man.
And look, I'm not going to lie. Okay. I probably shouldn't even talk about this, but
Here we go.
Well, look, okay. I tried my best to talk to YouTube and to heal the rift between YouTube as a platform and Crowder. And, I know Crowder, he's a good guy. Steven Crowder is a fantastic guy. And his dad, Darren, such a great guy. I love hanging out with them. They're fun to hang out with. They're funny. He's a good dude. I think very highly Steven Crowder. I've been on his show before. He's a great guy, and I remember one time reaching out to Crowder. I'm like, man, like, why don't you try to bury the hatchet with YouTube? Like, get back on YouTube, get your monetization back and just bury the hatchet, Well, maybe, blah, blah, blah. You seem to have some opinions, which I'm not going to discuss the exact opinions, but I reach out to my SPN and I'm like, is there anything we can do for Crowder? And they were kind of like, well, so I think that there's been some ongoing talks between the platform and him, but I just like to see people get along. I understand if people have to part ways, but I do care about the health of the platform. I do care about the health of YouTube, and I want to see the platform do well. I'm one of the OGs on this platform, and I've worked very hard to get where I am today, and I've done a lot to get where I am, and I don't want to see YouTube have an issue. I want to see the platform do well. I don't want to see them, go the way of the dodo just because they happen to take on a few bad opinions or hire a few bad apples that might have put them in a direction that they shouldn't have gone in. That's my only concern, But anyway, it's funny that you mentioned that because, yes, he is on Rumble.
Yep.
And Rumble's not a bad platform. I met the CEO of Rumble, I think, once down in Miami. I was when we were at Mar-a-Lago. I met him. Nice guy and everything. And that was when Rumble was just starting to kind of
I was going to say that was a couple of years ago.
I
remember that.
Early.
It's a nice trip, though.
I enjoyed it was
the
real
trip.
early for Rumble then. And but yeah, I'm glad to see that some conservative voices are getting a platform on like Rumble. I know Dan Bongino's on Rumble. But again, getting back to Kirk, is that when your platform is that you exist, that's a danger to the left. And I think that, not to get on the tinfoil hat territory, they realized that Charlie was considering presidential bid. They knew that he was considering office, political office. I think they knew that he was a very, very influential person and was only going to get more influential. They saw that coming. And I don't want to sit here and place blame and say that, someone tried to, assassinate him on purpose, like for some political reason. I think right now we're being led to believe it's just some lone wolf weirdo who just had a psychotic episode and decided that he had an opportunity and just wanted to commit cold-blooded murder. That's what we're going to be told, right? We're going to be told that this guy just was unhinged, whatever. And that's all we're ever going to know. And again, me being skeptical and me being very scrutinizing of the official narrative, which I always am. I always heavily scrutinize the official narrative. There's no telling who was really involved in this thing. And again, this is a playground for conspiracy. When you have a big, wide open area, there's many different places people could be. You never know.
And let's look at it realistically. We're rounding to 140 yards, all right? Because I think it's like 137 or something. We're going to round to 140.
Right.
Not a long shot. people, you hear people kick around there. Like not really. 140 yards, especially with a 30-06, it's a laser beam.
Right.
Yeah, the bullet is gonna go with that distance.
You can go right where you're looking.
It's gonna go right exactly where you look.
Yeah, especially
no
with a
drop.
150 grain bullet, it's not gonna really drop
God.
much. And so I hunt with 30-06 quite a bit. I know you do too.
Oh, yes, man.
And at one point, I bought a bunch of those 200 grain
220.
220s.
220s.
Who makes that load? Is that I think it's a federal load. They're federal 220 grain soft points. I like heavy bullets in .06. Now, I'm not getting off on this subject matter. I don't want to make this about the shot or the shooter, or I don't really want to make it about that. But let's just say, to back up Matt's point, 30-06s can shoot extremely flat depending on the load. And a heavy bullet, oh yeah, they shoot real flat. Now, it gets to a point, they fall out of the sky pretty quick. I mean, that 220 is a ballistic marshmallow. Yeah, it's like a 200-yard gun.
I was going to say 200.
But you're not going to shoot more than 200, right? Yeah. So I like the heavier bullets because they make cleaner wounds, and they don't destroy as much meat. But and they get full penetration. Yeah. They get a good penetration. So anyway, without all of those things withstanding, I think people want to focus on the shot, the difficulty of the shot, and judging how that would make someone a professional shooter or not. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about escape and evasion. Now, what would require professional escape and evasion? Getting away. Anyone can climb on a roof and shoot a rifle. You got to get there undetected. You got to sneak into place undetected.
Yeah.
You got to make the shot. You got to get away and escape, which he did. All right, now, did he just have a really good plan? Did he have help? Was it just dumb luck? I mean, look, you have to accept the fact that there might be some dumb luck involved. Sometimes people just get freaking lucky. He jumped off the roof and I think sprained his ankle or something.
Well, yeah, they had video of him like running across the grass, and the text message thread that he was writing, he was like, "Oh, I put the rifle. I can see the rifle. They're walking around looking for me." Like he's like in real time, like texting with his roommate, and I use air quotes there for the listeners, not the viewers. Yeah. And it's just like you said, it's just dumb luck, man. Like, how are you going to be able to just like wait in the grass?
Yeah.
And they're like kind of walking around and you're like, holy crap, these guys are not looking. Like
it's wild. Yeah, I mean, so when something like that happens, I mean, obviously if you watch videos of what happened, yeah, it was utter chaos. People start running, screaming. It's a chaos. So in that chaos, it might have provided him enough time to try to find a way to get away. And he did get away. And then he didn't get caught there.
And then he goes to Dairy Queen.
He got away.
Dude went to Dairy Queen and got himself some ice cream, man. They had video stills of him ordering ice cream at Dairy Queen like 15 minutes after he did it. Yeah, man.
What the heck?
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And to think that he got away. But, I think these people out here that are saying that he is some Mossad hitman or CIA hitman or something far-reaching like that, I think that's a reach. I think at this point that he's definitely a normie. I don't really – there's nothing about this kid that makes me think that he's some sort of hired gun or whatever. I mean, I can see why people would make that distinction because, yes, did Charlie Kirk have a lot of enemies? He did. He had a lot of political enemies. Look, he was beginning to question a lot of things. And he was a guy who had, a lot of influence. And from if you listen to Candace Owens, some of the things that she's saying,
that last video was
Candace always has some kind of wild opinions, but they always have this sort of flavor to them that's like, okay, well, she's got some receipts here. She's got some videos. Here's some statements from the wife. Some statements from Charlie. Here's, what he said in a podcast a week ago. Here's what he said to Tucker Carlson. It's like, so when you start connecting the dots, you kind of start going, well, yeah, Charlie had some enemies in high places. And that's scary, to think that, all right, are they capable of doing these sorts of things? Well, of course they are. Was it them? Did they do it? We may never know. Just like with JFK, there's many theories about who really shot JFK and where the direction of the shot and who it was. And all this theories about what really happened to him. But at the end of the day, he's dead.
Didn't JFK get hit in the throat also?
Well, no, I think he got hit right in the cranium.
Oh man,
it was bad, and it was a hard shot. It was a moving shot, But anyway, without getting into that, the point is that anytime someone's assassinated like that, I mean, even MLK was shot with a 30-06,
mm-hmm.
but I think he got hit in the chest. Same thing. All these theories about, it wasn't this guy. They got the wrong guy, and this and that, and this and that. And was it James Earl Ray on his deathbed told Martin Luther King's mom, I think, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I'm innocent. I promise you I'm innocent. The killer's still out there. So you never know. Anytime a high-profile person is shot and killed, it's tragic to some, and it's a victory to others. But I think the real death is the truth. Like, I think a lot of times these sorts of things, I feel like maybe the authorities know a lot more than what they're probably telling people. Right. And I don't think we're ever going to get the real truth about what really led up to this. I think they know a lot more than we do, and I think that we're not ever going to know the truth.
100%. They'd rather tell us about, Hellfire missiles bouncing off of a UFO before we get any information, which they did release video footage of after the fact.
I mean, the image looked like it bounced off to me. I mean, I don't know what a Hellfire missile looks like, but I know what something bouncing off something looks like.
Isn't that interesting how they released that after? They're like, oh yeah, and by the way,
here, pay attention to this.
We got this video footage of a UFO getting hit with a missile.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and speculate about that sort of stuff, because I think it's disrespectful to Charlie's memory, especially at this juncture, being so, it didn't happen that long ago. So, I didn't really want to, make this about speculating too much on it, because it's too early to speculate. There's still a lot of information. There's still investigation going on.
But if we didn't, the viewers and listeners would say, you would see the comments flooded with like all of these, like, why didn't you say this? Why didn't you ask this? So if we just have to say it,
right?
And now you guys know.
I think we've asked the questions that really merit asking the most, and the point is I think the biggest takeaway from this is that Charlie has got a lot more guys to pay attention to God and Christianity and spirituality. I think that's a positive thing in this world that we need right now.
Absolutely, man. And I am not a heavily religious guy. I never was. I used to be when I was younger. I would go to church and go to Sunday school, and I just kind of like went away from that, and I haven't been to church in probably 30 years, man. It's just not something that was ever on our radar.
I went for the first time a couple of weeks ago.
See, and like
for a while. Well, it ain't been a long time, like over 20 years myself.
And I'm like, now I'm really like I'm considering it. I'm thinking, I'm like, man, maybe, as I have a daughter, I'm like, the things, and I notice this because I have friends that are very religious, and I'm like, the one thing that, really you take away from religion is that the morals, it really instills the morality and a good set of morals for you and for growing up, because that's something that I will be honest with you. I learned what right and wrong, and to be a good person, to be a good kid, and to honor your mother and your father. I learned all that from church. That wasn't something that I learned from my parents. That was something that I did when I got home, and I learned that from like Sunday school, from learning like this is what you're supposed to do, and you have to treat people good, and you have to be be a good person and treat everybody with respect. So I'm already old, but as I'm getting older and I'm raising my daughter, I'm like, maybe we will try it out. Maybe we'll see, and, I want her to, have those same values and morals, and, we'll see.
I tell you, I think what Charlie Kirk's legacy is ultimately going to be. I mean, yes, he was willing to listen. Yes, he was willing to have a conversation. I think at this point, his legacy will wind up being that he caused a lot more people to turn back to God. And I think it's going to have some huge effects moving forward. And I think we're only seeing the very beginning of a very large resurgence of American values. And I mean, the name of the company, Turning Point USA. Oh my gosh, what a perfect name, right?
Yep.
Turning Point. Charlie He was the turning point. And that's crazy to think that a guy can have that kind of a legacy. Just talking to people, just
At
going out,
31, at
just
being 31 years
yeah.
old,
At
man.
31 years old, he accomplished so much. And you know, I again, I have not really followed his work that much in the past, but I am going to go through and consume a lot more of his work and listen to some more of his work. But it's like sometimes you don't even have to know what the body of the work even is to know how a person transcends a certain movement or idea. And you see how people reacted. You see the social consequences this shooting has had on society. That's all I really need to know about the guy. I mean, yeah, I can know more about his work, but ultimately the work is almost secondary to the impact that the work has. And it's the impact that people are like, wow.
You know, the crazy thing is
they're
that
showing up at these rallies, they're going to church. It's like, that's a huge, huge deal.
Well, the crazy thing is that he had the power of a political activist or just an activist in general without actually being an activist. He used that, I guess, momentum to convince people, like you said, to go back to the church, to look past what you would normally learn and look at what really matters. Like, so that's the whole like college is a scam thing. Like that would people be so upset with that. Like, oh, how you never been to college, and yet I'm still here on your campus debating you and telling you everything that you don't know.
And you're still wrong.
So it's just the craziest thing to be able to go in and do these things and not have that culty activist vibe. Like some people will like,
he's just a guy with a microphone.
Right. He wasn't like, oh, come to this rally and we have to make change and all. Like, all right, he's a little activisty, a little culty, but he never did any of that.
Yeah, he's like, let's talk. Here we are.
That was it. He was like, hey, we're going to have a conversation and, turn back to God. Thanks for your time. Like that was it. Like he would answer the question. You say,
I don't see a problem with that.
I
don't see a problem with that. I mean, if anything, he was really witnessing. He was going.
That's a great
evangelical approach to knowledge and very, very Christ-like. I mean, and look, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's part of a Christian's job is to go out and witness, to go out and spread that word, and he did that in a way that the young people could relate to. And I think that's one of the reasons that he had so many enemies. If you have enemies, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the truth. And I hate that things worked out the way they did. I hate to see him gone. And I think it's tragic and terrible, and we should never condone this type of stuff. But the biggest takeaway that I think we all have from this is that these people are playing for keeps. And if anything, the left has woken up the right in a very, very, very distinctive way. And I don't think it's the reaction they quite were hoping for. I think they were honestly hoping for us to get violent. So then they could have, see, they're this, they're that. But no, do you see right-wing people looting stores and robbing businesses and setting cars on fire and burning down the police station and trying to just be freaking pricks to society? No. They're going to church. They're holding hands. They're going to rallies. They're holding candlelight vigils. They're praying. Oh, boy. They woke up a sleeping giant, and they have no idea what that is going to do morally to society that is going to create even more people like Charlie in the future. Well, they're going to have the exact opposite effect to what they're trying to accomplish.
I mean, the guy had such a reach. They're using his name in Korea. They're protesting in South Korea saying we are Charlie Kirk, like by the hundreds of thousands marching through the streets because he was able to reach out. And like South Korea is heavily Christian. So I mean, and obviously Charlie Kirk was embodied the Holy Ghost, the Christian values, so they align with him a lot.
So it's crazy, man. Like our show, I know that we tend to not really go down that rabbit hole very often or anything like that. And one thing I'll mention too is that, the left, they really do pander hard to the African-American voters and everything like that. And I will tell you, I've observed some behavior, and, the blacks in this country are very religious. And I noticed that. Like I went over to the little buffet place the other day to have some lunch. You know, not an older black guy, younger black guy, maybe 30s. You know, sits down. He's praying over his food before he eats. It's like, okay, he's religious. You know. And then I saw another young black lady comes and sits down. What's she do? She's praying over her food. I'm thinking, wow. Like every time I see black families sit down, have dinner, if I'm out, so they're always pray. So it's like they're very religious. And you go out on Sunday, right? Now I can't speak for every place, but where I'm at, you go somewhere on Sunday, the black families are going to show up. You know, they're dressed nice. They just left church. You know, they're going to have a meal after church. They're praying before they eat. So it's like, I don't think the left fully realizes the gravity of what they think they're really trying to accomplish by hurting somebody like Charlie. Because, you know, they rely on the African-American voters to vote Democrat. And I think you're going to see some interesting stuff in the midterms.
No, and
I
that's
think
true.
that the Democrats are going to have their asses handed to them in the polls. And I think they really screwed up. You know. Yeah,
and what you see is a lot of it is the younger generation, whether it's black, white, Spanish, Asian, because the left has all of them. It's the younger generation, those college kids, those high school kids are the ones that are being a little bit insubordinate when it comes to like their behavior on the whole matter. But you are right. I had that written down, like no riots, no looting, no destruction. Like none of that took place.
Thomas Sowell in his youth was a Marxist. And Thomas Sowell is one of the most profound thinkers when it comes to race and economics and social disparities and all this data that we always take for granted. But he really dives in deep and goes into the twisted minutia of what really makes people tick in these areas, right? Thomas Sowell is one of the greatest thinkers of our time, and he, in his youth, was a Marxist. So I'm not going to write off a young person who's a Marxist today. People change. People change, and you know, I don't think that these people are going to continue to have these points of view. I think that as information is more readily available, and I think they will begin to realize, like, wow, I was wrong. Sometimes that's more powerful. It's more powerful when a young person is a leftist and then they go, I'm leaving the left and here's why. And then they can articulate their reason perfectly. And another leftist goes, oh my God, he's right. Like, wow, you know, there's a reason for this. And I think it's really interesting. I always use Thomas Sowell as a reference because, you know, he is such a brilliant thinker. He's one of the top conservative voices we could ever have. But in his youth, he was far from it. He was a Marxist.
No, I listen. Crazy. If you go on YouTube, he has his own YouTube channel, and he's still producing content at the age of like 94 or something. 89? No, dude, he's in his 90s now. Yeah, wow. But he still updates his channel, and he has all his talks. I would encourage you guys, go listen to it.
He's a brilliant dude.
Yeah, just amazing audio. Just have it playing in the background. It'll make complete sense.
Just put it on and listen and be educated because he puts it out there and he's not afraid to tell it like it is. And I tell you, academia has really treated him terribly. And it really grinds my gears that, you know, I think it's because they know in his youth he was a Marxist and that he basically left the reservation, you know, and I think that has consequences in academia because most academics are leftists. And let's face it, you know, our education system is controlled by leftists, and a lot of the educators and professors are leftists, and they're going to, you know, sort of really teeter on that leftist agenda. They do it purposely because they know children are, you know, younger people are impressionable and easy to manipulate.
Oh, yeah.
And their brains are like sponges. They're taking in all the information. So, yeah, they're going to take the propaganda as well. So logically, it makes sense to try to take over those institutions.
Yeah,
politically.
Well, it's not just colleges. It goes all the way down to like elementary school. My daughter, when the election was going on, my daughter was in the second grade, came home talking about, oh, I don't like Trump, and I'm like, you don't even know Trump. Like, how is this like? And I don't think the teachers are teaching this. I think the teachers are having conversations within earshot of the kids. So these little kids are doing is they're just doing their own thing,
what the
and they
do.
hear and they go, oh, this is what adults talk about, and they come home and they start. I'm like, listen, let's fix this, all right?
For real.
Like
for real.
I think the school she goes to is absolutely amazing. I think, like I said, the kids hear things and they just start discussing things, and then you have to correct it. So I'm just like, hey, listen, all politicians are bad. Like,
yeah.
Just that's exactly. I was like, listen,
true.
I'm like, listen, they're all bad, honey. Don't listen. They're all bad.
Yeah, there's people who at one point think that the system can be saved, and there's like one point you just go ahead and like what they say. There's the red pill, the blue pill, the black pill, the white pill, all these pills, and you just go. You just take them all. Like what if in the Matrix, Nemo just grabbed both of them,
taste the rainbow,
just everything, and what's his face? What
Morpheus?
Yeah, Morpheus sitting there going, no one's ever done that before.
We're about to find out.
We're about to find something out. Yep. Anyway, I think that's where society is at. They're ready to rip the Band-Aid off of all this and solve the problem. Yeah. And what that looks like moving forward, I guess really is hard to say, Matt. I don't know. I mean, I have my speculation. I know that Charlie is a huge part of it. He's going to be known as a person who was the lamb. I mean, and that's what it's going to come down to. He's the lamb. He's the Lamb of God.
Well, his content will live
he is
forever.
a Lamb of God.
Yeah, his content will live on forever, and his wife is now taking the reins of Turning Point, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just it's unfortunate. I remember when it first happened. I sent you a text message, man. Like I was like, damn.
I know.
And I am not a grim dude, but when I saw that little clip of the video, like the first thing I messaged you, I was like, no, I like to be optimistic about things, man. But from
people were saying that he might have pulled through. He's in critical condition.
Like with what we've seen, I saw that and I was like, no way.
Yeah. I didn't want to be pessimistic.
Yep. But at some point you have to be like a realist.
I think my initial thought, I was like at least it was quick.
Yeah. No, he was done before he hit the ground.
I think he was done instantly. Yeah. And I mean, I hope he didn't feel anything. I mean, in a shot like that, you may not really feel anything. Yeah. I mean, I hope that was the case. I mean, but it's just
unfortunate.
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what. And my thoughts and prayers definitely go out to his family and his kids, and really society's a victim too, because society lost a good, honorable person.
Oh yeah.
So society is just as much a victim as a family. And like, we're always family at this point. It's like, I think that's where a lot of people are rallying around him for that reason. Like they feel like they lost somebody that was close to them.
That's exactly how it felt, man. Cause you
relate to that person. Yeah.
You're like, man, I don't always agree with what he said. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with. I'm like you, man. I didn't always agree. Yeah. But I mean, I agreed more often than not.
Right.
And I enjoyed the conversations that he had. And that's how it felt. I was like, damn, like that sucks, because it's like, I don't know how I feel right now, because
it's like Voltaire said, Voltaire or whatever that guy, he said that, I disagree with what you have to say. What I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Yep.
And that Voltaire. He embodied that. I mean, he embodied that idea. Like, he may not have agreed with what you had to say, but he was willing to stand there and accept whatever was going to happen to him, knowing that there was a lot of people that disagreed with him. And that's an honorable thing,
I'm not, and I know we're running short on time, but I'm just gonna. I was watching another podcast. I'm not going to name it, but they were sitting around, and they also go around to college campuses, and they were saying like, oh well, based on what happened, we're gonna have to cancel our remaining public. Our college campus visits, and we have to do what's right for the safety of us and our crew. And one guy was saying like, yeah, the terrorists didn't win, and another guy straight up was like, but they did win, because you stopped going. Like, you canceled all of your you canceled all of your remaining or your future college visits. They won. Yeah. And I was like, and then they're like, to watch them try to fight that, like, no, they didn't win. Like, we have to be safe. Like, but they won, because that was the goal. Yeah, the goal was to keep anybody from doing it. And that blew me away, to watch them fight the mental gymnastics that they tried to jump through to justify that they didn't like that they didn't impact that. I was like, no, man, like,
Wow. Yeah.
And then you saw like Ben Shapiro double down and was like, nope, we're doubling our college appearances. Like he was that. Know. I was like, I mean, I'm not a huge Ben Shapiro fan.
I'm not either.
However, I do appreciate the veracity that he has to be like, nah, we're gonna keep going, we're gonna double it.
You know, I don't agree with the way Shapiro handled the situation with Candace.
Yeah,
and I'm not really crazy about that. And there are some things, you know, his views, you know, he's a little bit too heavy-handed on certain areas for me.
Yeah.
But overall, you know, I think that he's a logical person that can be reasoned with, and but I will respectfully say that I probably disagree with him on more things than I agree with.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that.
But overall, I can appreciate his approach, and I don't think he's a terrible person or anything.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I'm just gonna have to see how that all plays out, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, just based on his approach to it, not letting the you know left dictate the message. Yeah. I'm like, all right. I respect that. I can respect you and not like you at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely respect his decision to double down. I mean, that's ballsy. I'm down. That's good. Well, I really hope that everybody's had a great week, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of LLP. And I know we went off on some very dark territory. I really appreciate you guys who support our efforts, watch the channel. You can watch every Monday at 9 o'clock. We post
9 a.m.
and Eastern Standard Time. You can watch the video version over on YouTube on Iraq Veteran 8888, or you can download audio for this podcast anywhere all your favorite podcasts are served from, you know, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Okay. Feel free to drop us a comment down in the comment section below on the video here if you're watching the video, and let us know, what do you think? Is there something that we forgot to talk about that was very important, or were there some facts that maybe would be interesting to bring up? What's your opinion? What do you think happened? Do you think that there was some greater conspiracy to harm Charlie? Do you think that this was just some freak lone wolf situation? What do you think the political ramifications are going to be? Do you think that the left is in their death throes, or do you think they're just getting started? We want to know what you think. Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to know your thoughts. And again, we always tend to go back to some previous comments in future episodes. So leave a comment, and you never know, we might read your comment on the air. We would love to know what you have to think. Thank you all so very much for watching today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Anything else, Matt, before we go?
Nope. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know it was a very heavy subject.
Yes.
But, you know, I think that Eric and I both are happy to finally be able to talk about it with the facts.
Yeah, that's right. Guys, thank you so much. Many more podcasts on the way. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Life, Liberty, and Pursuit. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else podcasts are found. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate that. You can support us over on Ballistic Ink by picking yourself up some merch. And remember, guys, danger is freedom. Have a good one.